Hello, people. This is Two Legs Better from my channel Two Legs Better, and today's episode is about football, American college football. And congratulations to my Buckeyes. They just won the national champion of 2025 over Notre Dame, and it was a great game. It's a very good game, and I just briefly recount that, and then I'll show you a little bit of video of what's happening in Columbus about the celebration, and then what I really want to get into is to tell the stories of this team. Coach Day said, your story is only getting told when you win, and they won. So now it's time to reflect the journey and to talk about the stories. There's so many stories about this team, and I will try to keep it brief. I won't go too much details, but I want to kind of give you my account of most of the major players, the contributors for this team, this particular team, along the way, and tell you what I think. And at the end, I'm going to talk about the coaching, and especially Coach Day and his journey, and what I saw over the years by following him. So this is again Two Legs Better. So please subscribe, and let's get into that. And first, I want to recount the game a little bit. The game started with Notre Dame had a 16-play drive. It used about almost 9 minutes and ended with a touchdown. Along the way, they converted the numerous third downs and fourth downs, and Riley Leonard played his heart out. It was really a great performance. It's like I was like, wow, okay, let's see how the Buckeyes respond. And the Buckeyes responded well, and they scored on the next four consecutive possessions, and bring the scores up. The thing about Notre Dame is this. Austin Ward said his observation was that the Buckeyes are a little bit stronger and also a little bit better physically, because this is the end of the season. After 16 games, everybody has bumps and bruises, right? But it seems like the Buckeyes are in a little bit better position. It kind of showed. You got to give credit to Notre Dame, to Marcus Freeman, and they had a great game plan, and they executed it perfectly. Well, maybe not perfectly, but executed really well on the first drive. But that also took a lot out of the players. It's not easy to drive down the field to run on this Buckeye defense, and they did that with a huge cost. Riley Leonard vomited after that drive. That's how much he put into that. So really, my hats off to him, and it's a great game. But the Buckeyes took a huge lead later, and then in the second quarter, according to Birmingham, I love you, Berm, but you got to lay off that talk. What I mean by this, Berm said the Buckeyes made it unnecessarily close than it should be. I kind of disagree. When you lead for 3 scores, you don't have to try too hard, because when you try too hard, sometimes you put your team at risk. Because think about it, if it's a interception return touchdown, that's immediately change the momentum, and it's college, it's still college players. 2 scores, 3 scores sometimes doesn't really mean much. So I like how they approach that, the steady approach. But this is a delicate situation, because you don't want to be too conservative, because you give your opponents too many opportunities. But you don't want to be too risky, because you put your team at unnecessary risk. And this is the time I think the quarterback is extremely important. And we'll get into his stories after I showed you a little bit of the videos. And by the way, I haven't seen the video yet, so let's see what happens.
Clay Gordon also joining us. He's on Jack Nicklaus Drive. Clay, let's start with you. You've been out there for a minute. You saw hardly any fans, everybody waiting in their car. Tell us what it's like right now.
Yeah, so we have about hundreds of fans kind of over here, and if you actually, we're going to take a look right now at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center from a different angle there. You can see all the fans too. But if we come back here to Jack Nicklaus Drive, if you see past some of these cruisers, we're seeing the first cruiser coming in with Columbus Police, and then right behind that is the first bus. If we take a look, we know there are 9 buses coming in from the airport, and this is our fans' first check of getting a look at the team arriving from the national championship game in Atlanta. We've been waiting for them to come to the athletic facility here for over an hour now. We know it took a little bit of time to unload the plane and get all loaded up, and filling 9 buses full of staff, team members, and equipment takes a little bit of time. Now we're just curious to see which way they're going to go. If they're going to go behind the gates here at the Woody Hayes, it looks like that's what Columbus Police is pointing at, that the buses will be going inside. So the fans will be on the other side of the fence here as we're taking a look at the first bus here that says "Go Bucks" on the little ticker tape on the top there as the first cruiser is pulling in. So we are waiting to see who's on each of these buses, including the national championship trophy that they just brought here home to the Woody Hayes. It looks like they're changing the plans now. The buses are going to go straight. This is this.
Okay, so that's it for that. If I showed you that, it just kind of give you a taste. And if you want, you can watch the rest of that clip. Of course, it's easy to find on YouTube these days. I show that, and it gave me emotions because I spent years there in Columbus, and it kind of, you see the snow, you see the scenery, you see the bus coming back. It's just it's mundane on one hand, but also glorious on the other. It's like these people, they achieved a lot, and then this is how they come back home. This is just great for me. So let's get into the stories. So the stories, there's so many to tell. Okay, the first one I want to dive in is the offensive line. Okay, the offensive line at the beginning of the year, it was good. Okay, I mean, they had Josh Simmons transferred, and he is the best O-line, but he transferred in from San Diego State, I believe, and. But last year he didn't really perform that well. But this year he really settled in. He's becoming the leader of the offensive line. And then they brought in Seth McLaughlin from Alabama. Seth is a smart player. He graduated and got a master's degree from Alabama already, and working on his second master at Ohio State. And he's a smart, cerebral player. And he really gelled the offensive line together. So for the first half of the season, before the Oregon game, the first Oregon game, the team was doing great. The team was, I wouldn't say run first. I think they tried to be run first, but it's more balanced, the team. But the run is a little bit heavier than the pass, I would say. But then, at the beginning of the Oregon game, Josh Simmons was hurt, and they had to put in the substitute left tackle. But I don't want to blame the losing of the game to that, because essentially the defense didn't really play that well. But on the other hand, you can also say Oregon played a great game that day. And it's also their home field. So that's the start of the offensive line trouble. And this is like so inopportune because a couple weeks after that, Seth also was injured and out of for the season. And that really a huge blow. So they had to come back to Carson Hinsman. Carson Hinsman himself is another story. And he was the starting center last year, but near the end, he did an interview and said some things that's a little bit, more than he should, beyond his pay grade, basically. So in a way, he was demoted, but he didn't give up. He still remained on the team and worked hard, and now his opportunity came. And another big one is Donovan Jackson. Donovan Jackson is probably, I would say, the central piece of this championship run. Without him, it's not going to work. So who is Donovan Jackson? Donovan Jackson was the left guard, and not just left guard. He played left guard for 2 years. 2 year starter at Ohio State offensive line before this season, before the 2024 season, and he garnered All-American honor. So he's basically the top guard. And so if he goes to NFL is treating him as the top guard. But the left guard is a little bit less valuable than left tackle because left tackle is much more difficult. So they are also all on the offensive line, but the difference is big. And now they can tell the stories. And when Austin asked Donovan, and he said at the time, because Josh was out and he's the next best option. So the coaches came to him and say, we need you to play at left tackle. And he's like, okay, what's that going to do to me? Because you got to think about yourself, right? Because left tackle is very different from left guard. What if I blew it to the left guard? What's that going to do to the team? What's that going to do to my draft stock? What's that going to do to my future, right? And then the coaches basically assured him, saying, you're okay, you'll be okay, you can do that. And the story doesn't end there, because the first time he starts at left tackle was against Penn State. And Penn State has the probably top 10, top 15 draft pick in Abdul Carter, I think. Is that his name? And he's really, really good. I think the first play, he blew past Donovan Jackson. I was like, whoops, holy, that's almost like the end of something. But then he settled down, and they did things to help him, and he never looked back. For the rest of the season, he played left tackle almost flawlessly, really almost flawlessly. You can check his data, and it's just a great story, and it also helped his draft stock. Now he can play both guard and left tackle at the next level. So he makes himself a lot more money by changing position to serve the team's need. It's just a great story. And the whole offensive line is, including the offensive line coach Justin Fry, they have been criticized so much. I wouldn't say these are lunatic fringe though, because these criticisms are well founded. Because the recruiting of offensive line, both in number and quality, is not overwhelming as the other recruitings. Okay, it's according to the Ohio State standard, it's a little bit subpar. The good news is about the transfer portal, so they can fix a lot of recruiting from that. But still, but I think Justin Fry is a great teacher, great coach. Recruiting probably needs a little bit more work, but he's a great coach, and this shows. He can put together a great offensive line. Before the Josh Simmons was hurt, the line was on pace to win awards. Okay, and then that's the offensive line, and there's more to talk about, but I don't want to spend too much time on that. So let's move on to quarterback. Okay, quarterback, Will Howard. Will Howard, his story, you probably know. He this is Will Howard, so you can see that. So Will Howard, he spent 4 years at Kansas State and had to deal with the COVID and stuff, and he was not really highly recruited out of high school, and Penn State didn't even look at him basically. Although he was, he grew up a Penn State fan, but even at Penn State, he had a lots of up and downs. The coach never had a full trust in him and saying, you're the guy. Until the last year, I believe. I didn't really follow his story that closely, but then he, the Kansas State has a new toy. A new guy comes in, and people say, we don't need you anymore, and kind of like Texas, But then he decided, he graduated too, and he decided to transfer, and he went to Ohio State. So whatever you say about Ryan Day, he has a great eye for quarterback. You could possibly say, oh yeah, what about Kyle McCord? What about Devin Brown? Well, I'm not saying the guy is infallible, right? Sometimes he can be wrong, and for McCord, I think I don't know. I was hoping McCord to grow over the season, but I don't want to knock on the guy. McCord is still a great player. Okay, it's just that he didn't grow the way he was supposed to. That's I thought if he stayed, he has a chance. He really do. He really does have a chance to grow into a championship caliber quarterback. But then he decided to leave, and then they bring in Will Howard. And Will Howard, what a story that is. I would say, he has great leadership quality, but even now, after he won the national championship, I think there's still a lot of doubters, and people say he's like the worst quarterback or something. It baffles me really, really badly because the data doesn't support that. Okay, he can run, he can pass, his accuracy is through the roof. I think that his number is the second or the first in terms of accuracy, and he's also clutch, and he can throw deep balls. He can do all of those, and he did make a couple mistakes along the way, but it's just I guess you could say he's still not fully polished yet. But what a game he played in the final, in the championship game. Okay, so he has the record for consecutive completions in the championship game by 13 completions in a row to start the game. That's just insane. That's insane. This is the championship game, the most important game, and he's so accurate. He doesn't even miss. Okay. And that actually is not the most insane stats about him. The most insane stats is he was responsible for 8 of the 9 first downs. 9 third down conversions. Sorry. So if you know anything about football, that's the most important stats. That basically means you continue your drive until the end. Okay. So and he did that by his legs mostly. That's 8 out of 9 third down conversion. That's just beautiful. It's you can't do much better than that. And again, I'm not saying the guy is flawless. He does make mistakes or underthrow or something, but in this game he basically did perfectly, and he's well deserved. And his journey is also interesting. A lot of people, even he himself, use the Ferrari metaphor. It's basically like the current Ohio State team is so talented. Many people hail that as the most talented team ever. Maybe even at least compared to Alabama teams, some of the best Alabama teams in recent memories. So he said, this is like a Ferrari. I just need to drive it. I don't need to do anything crazy. That's not a really, I understand it, but that's not a real good mindset to have for the quarterback. And then he crashed it a couple times. He crashed it at Oregon. It's not totally his fault. He did everything that was asked for, and it's just somehow it rests on his shoulder. But that one, and then somehow by the manipulation of the media and everything, the loss turns into a win. If you follow, you know what I mean. But then it gets into the game against the team up north, the Michigan. And in that game, and he was trying to get a first down at the beginning, and he didn't get it, unfortunately, and got a concussion instead. It's not a severe concussion, I believe. I think he passed the concussion protocol, but clearly it affected his performance in that game. And there are so many reasons that game was lost, but that's one of the major reasons, and I'm sure he took responsibility. But what I think it changes him after that game is that now it's my Ferrari now. I took it for a spin, I wrecked it, and I took it back, and now I'm driving it. This is my car. This is my property. I can do it whatever way I want. That is a great mentality for a quarterback to have. And as a transfer quarterback, it's difficult to have that. If everything is great, you're great. When things are tough and difficult, it's very you question yourself, and your teammates question you. Everybody questions you. So, I'm sure he has support from the team and bounced back, and they had a great run to win the championship. And if you don't get how significant, how difficult this championship is, think about it, okay? They won over the whole season. They won 6 out of the top 8 teams. Top 8 teams, they won 6, beat 6 of them to get to this championship. It's just it's just amazing, So that's Will Howard, and now he's his legacy is cemented in Columbus, Ohio. He's a true Buckeye now, and he's a Buckeye legend, and so I don't know what to say. It's just it's a great story, and that's Will Howard. Now, move on to the running backs. Okay, the running backs, we have Trey Henderson. Trey Henderson, I followed his career closely. The first year when he was bursting onto the stage, he was so great. I still remember seeing his speed. That's the speed that you don't really see, after Ted Ginn Jr. That's how fast he is on the field. But unfortunately, he has been hurt so much in the past couple of years because he runs really hard, and he's sometimes a little bit less patient and too fast for his own good. And that's by the way, this year he's very patient at many occasions. It's very lovely to see. But anyway, and to combat that, and also a long season, so Coach Day decided to bring in Quinshon Judkins. And Day is a class act, and he asked Trey first, how do you feel about that if we bring in Quinn? And he just welcomed Quinn with open arms. That's so beautiful to see, because these are big time athletes, great players. They have egos. It's like, this is my team. I'm the running back. I don't want another guy potentially could be even better than me. I think he would be proud and say, oh, I'm still better. But it's still that's Quinshon Judkins. He's no slouch. He's, for the final game, Howard, for the championship game, Will Howard is the offensive player of the game, and rightly so. Like I said, what he did is just record breaking. And if there is a co-offensive player, that would be Quinshon Judkins. Q not only played really hard, bring the energy to the team, and he scored 3 touchdowns and 2 rushing and 1 receiving. So that's Quinn's story. And he spent 2 years at Ole Miss and carried a whole bunch. He was, he was one of the top running backs in the country, not just in SEC, but in the country. I don't know why exactly he decided to transfer, but I'm so glad he transferred to the Buckeyes, and because he's just you don't just say, people like to say like thunder and lightning, because one is tougher, the other is faster. Quinn is not as fast as Trey, but he's probably a little more on the power side. But Trey also has power. And the other thing that's so great, if you are a football junkie like me, you notice is how they block. Both of them blocked had a great blockings. That's one of the reasons Howard can have enough time to do that. And if you remember the last play, the long shot to JJ near the end of the championship game, the 58-yard reception, that was only possible because Trey took up the blitzer. that gives Harvard enough time to make that throw. Without that blocking, it won't happen. So that's just so great to see. So that the running backs is just so, both of them are healthy and perform at a higher level near the end of the season. That's so great. Okay, now I think talking about that pass, it transfers to the other two groups. That's the tight ends and the wide receiver. The tight end, I want to mention G. Scott. G. Scott, he's a very passionate young man, and he came to Ohio State as a wide receiver, one of the top 100, I think, in the country. So he's one of the top receivers, but he kind of grows a little bit bigger, and the wide receiver room is also crowded, so they moved him to a tight end. It took a long time for him to adjust to that, and sometimes he's a little bit too emotional in the past couple years, and he is a very emotional person. I think Burr made him cry once, at least once. So it's kind of running joke now. But anyway, so he's a passionate guy and he's a team guy. He does a lot of things to this team. He never transferred, even considered transferring, and he stayed on the team and made a huge contribution this year when his number is called. Like in the semifinal game against Texas, when JD was taken away by Texas and he stepped up, and so and we also have tight ends from transfer portals and other places, and the tight end group is growing, and G is clearly the story of that group. And then let's go to the wide receiver group. The wide receiver group, first I want to the first one is Emeka Egbuka. Okay, this is I don't know how people view him. Okay, he is most likely first round wide receiver selection in the upcoming draft. Okay, he could be that last year too. And the cool thing, the amazing thing about him, there are so many amazing things about him. For one is, he was the number one wide receiver of his draft, his class out of high school. Okay, he was the number one. But at Ohio State, number one doesn't really mean much. Like Julian Fleming, he was number one too. But at Ohio State, he was basically overshadowed at first by Marvin Harrison, the great Marvin Harrison Jr. He's great. And now by J.J. Smith, the young freshman. This is his senior year, and he's the number 2 wide receiver on the team. Now, all that being said, his career is very, very rewarding. And by playing in the national championship game, not only he got a national champion ring, but he became the all-time reception leader of Ohio State wide receivers, above Chris Olave. And that's just a great honor. It's just it shows you a lot. He continues to fight, and he became a legend here. That's just it's mind-boggling. I can't stress it hard enough, because you think about it, you consider yourself the best, and then comes in a freshman, first year, and he's number 1, you're number 2. So it's but all that being said, it's a great story. It's a great guy. It shows the team culture and everything. And before I talk about J.J. Smith, I want to mention the Carnell Tate. Okay, Carnell Tate is from Chicago, and he's in his second year. He came to Ohio State in 2023. Unfortunately, before he even started his college career, the playing time, his mom was shot and killed in Chicago. It's such a tragedy. Just imagine you are 18 years old and your mom died in that tragic way. And he mentioned many times that his mom is his best friend. So, but then he just get to work and work really hard and was in the rotation the first year in his freshman year in the wide receiver group at Ohio State. In the second year he became a starter, but his last year he was the basically the third and fourth, and this year he's the third wide receiver, and he can be a number one to over 90% of other teams in the country. If he transfers to a different country, he will get the money, he will be the number one. But he stays at Ohio State, he's the number three. Does it mean he's less valuable? No. Because you remember the Texas game. Texas, did everything they could to take away J.J. Smith, and they were very successful. And J.J. got only 1 catch and 3 yards, okay? And then who stepped up? Carnell Tate. He had a career high 8 receptions in that game, and it was a good game, and he contributed a lot. So, and he has 1 more year at least with the Buckeyes. So we'll see. And that's a great guy, great young man. And now let's go to the other one, Jeremiah Smith. Okay, this guy is a freak. Okay, he is a freak. If you follow Ohio State Buckeyes, you will remember on the National Signing Day, Ryan Day was at the podium to announce who's in, to answer questions. But at that time, J.J. Smith had some trouble with the fax or whatever it is, so his letter wasn't in. And then the staff just walk into the press conference when it's still going and tell Coach Day that. That tells you how important this is. And then Ryan was almost glad, oh man, finally we got this. And that kind of tells you, coaches know. These are the coaches, they are paid millions of dollars to do this stuff. So they knew what's happening. They knew how good this guy is. And soon the whole football world discovered how good he is. He literally became the number one receiver in the first several games. First 2-3 games, you already see he's the number one. But what I want to talk about this guy is, for one, he's very humble. He doesn't say, "Oh yeah, I'm a generational talent. I'm the number one. I come here to take over." No, he doesn't do that. And one thing that struck me was during the spring game, the reporter, because he's the new sensation, right? So the reporter find him, said, we want to interview you. Remember, we want to interview you. And what he did, he went to ask Emeka and other receivers together. He brought the whole wide receiver room to the camera. And then, the reporter was like, okay, so what can I do now? I can now interview you one-on-one. So he asked questions regarding the wide receiver rooms, and then, of course, Emeka was answering that because he's the big guy. He's the big brother in the group. This shows you, I just like the guy. It's like, it's not about me, it's about the team. And the other thing about this team mentality is, in the Texas game, Smith basically went off in the playoff. The first one against Tennessee, 2 touchdowns, and the second game against Oregon, 2 touchdowns. Big numbers, and everybody was like, wow. And then in Texas game, he got only 1 catch for 3 yards, and he also dropped another one. That's one he normally would catch. But anyway, for a lot of big time athletes like that, they would be devastated or at least affected. And for him, it's not like he's not confident or even arrogant. You need to be arrogant as a receiver at this level. You got to say, nobody can guard me. One-on-one, nobody can guard me. I'm going to dominate. That's his own words. He wants to dominate. But in a way, you could say he didn't. But in reality, he did. It's because the whole team, the Texas defense, spent so much focus on him, in a way opened up everybody else on the team so the team can win. I think he understands that. And the national championship game is kind of similar. Um, that's also I want to give credit to Marcus Freeman and the Notre Dame team. They didn't do much zone coverage the whole season, but now they use many more. I think half of the snaps were zone coverage against the Buckeyes because they knew they can't really do man-to-man coverage. It's just too risky. So in most of the game, Smith was in check. JJ got a touchdown, and it was almost too easy, and he didn't really have he had a couple catches. It was okay, but it was nothing spectacular until near the end. So he just put his head down and did his work, and until the opportunity came. At the critical time near the end, a little bit over 2 minutes left near the end, it's a 3rd and 11, and he catch that 58-yard bomb from Will Howard to basically seal the game. And that's just poetic. That tells you, to be successful, talent itself is not enough. You still need to work hard, and you need to do what you're supposed to do. You do what you're supposed to do, the opportunity will come to you. If you try too hard, too much about yourself, sometimes it doesn't go that way. So, so that's JJ, and that kind of rounds up the wide receiver groups, and so this is just great. So that's about the offense. It's getting a little bit long. It's kind of too long. It's over half an hour now, but I don't want to do another recording, so I'll just continue to do the defense. Okay, for the defense, the first I want to talk about is the defensive line. And the defensive line, of course, you need to start with this guy, Jack Sawyer. Jack Sawyer is a Columbus guy, so he grew up there. He's literally wearing Ohio State gear when he was like a baby, and he grew up there, and he played well. He was the first one, well, more or less, I suppose. He was the first one committed to Ryan Day when he took over as the head coach, and he suffered so much. He really suffered so much in so many years, and couldn't get a gold pants, beat the team up north, and this year he could have gone to the NFL, but he was a 5-star recruit, but the general thinking was he kind of underperformed a little bit over the years, so he wasn't as dominant as like Chase Young, like the Bosa brothers, and like he was supposed to be. So he decided to stay the one last year to win something, to win some championships, and now he did. It's just so great to see, and his snatch, his strip sack and snatch and touchdown against the Texas will be remembered as one of the top plays at Ohio State history, at least in this century. In this century, there are 3 championship runs. There's a Zeke's 85 yards dagger through the heart of the South, right, against Alabama. There's Steve Miller's interception return for a touchdown, and there was the Holy Buckeyes, the Buckeyes against Purdue. And to me, the best one is Maurice Claret's strip back. But anyway, Captain Jack, he's was definitely in top 3. Okay, that's it's going to be replayed forever, many times over. So it's great, and his legacy is there. It's great. Okay, and the other guy is JT Tuimoloau, and this is another 5-star guy. He's actually a higher 5-star guy, I think top 5 guy, and he enrolled later. And some people call him drama queen. I really don't see that. I don't think he delayed because he wants the drama. It's because of circumstances. He's not really you know, a headlight-seeking kind of person. You know, he 4 years at Ohio State, he never caused any trouble. He's, you know, anyway. So he's a great guy, and he has very high ceilings. It's like a lot of people use him to describe the Buckeyes defensive line in the past several years. It's like when it's high, it's really really high. I think it's a couple years ago. A couple years ago at Happy Valley against Penn State, he literally won the game by himself. He like you know, in 6 plays he got like you know, 4 sacks and 2 interceptions and stuff like that. It's legendary. Nobody does that. Even the Bosa brothers, the Chase Youngs, and they don't do that. But he did that. But then it could be also like several games he doesn't do much. You know, it's I really don't know the reason behind, but until this season, until the postseason, especially the postseason, just go off. Him and Jack, on both ends, you know, they just great. You know, it's legendary. And then the interior, you know, the Tyreek Williams and Ty Hamilton, the TNT, and Tyreek Williams. He flashed in his freshman season. You know, when he was on the field, sometimes he was unblockable. He's the defensive tackle in the middle. You know, when the defensive tackle goes off, the defense is really really good. But then, you know, it kind of goes down to earth a little bit. I think mostly because of injury. You know, he was injured along the way. Well, by the way, these people, they all have some kind of injuries, but some are worse than others, and some are affected more by them than others. And Tyreek, but he did great. He did really great this whole season, and in the postseason particularly, you know, he did really great. So that's the offensive line. The offensive line, I would say, after the first Oregon game, the offensive line played great, consistently great, even including the loss to the team up north. You know, this could be an all-time great defensive unit right there. Okay, so, and that's all because of the defensive line. Really, defensive line is the heart and soul of this defense, and this defense is great on all levels. Okay, so behind the offensive line is Cody Simon. I want to talk about Cody Simon first. Cody Simon, you know, he's the team captain wearing the block O. That's a great honor at Ohio State. And he broke his leg 2 years ago in the Rose Bowl. It's broke his leg. It's just think about it. Okay, it's devastating, and so his future in the NFL is kind of hard to say. But he played so well, and you know, he's a great player. So he just comes back and you know, become the heart and soul of this defense. You know, in football games, you don't need me to tell you, right? It's the defensive line and then the linebackers. The linebackers basically had to diagnose the plays and react accordingly. And Cody made so many great plays, so many great tackles, and that's, by the way, that's a sign of a very good defense. When your linebackers are the top tacklers, you know, they have the most tackles. So that's Cody Simon, and alongside him is Sonny Styles. Sonny Styles. Sonny Styles is, Ohio State. Yeah. Sonny Styles is Ohio State legacy. His father played for Ohio State, but he didn't win the national championship, of course. And Sony's brother played for Notre Dame and then transferred back to Ohio State. So now both of them are on the team. And Sony was a highly talented player. He was young, he was big and fast, and he played safety first and then moved to linebacker. Earlier this season, he's still learning the linebacker position. That gives us a lot of credit to James Laurinaitis, the linebacker coach, the former legend, himself. Well, Sony, he improved so much. He's just so fast. He can cover, he can hit, he can support the run. He does so much, I think he still have one more year left, but I don't know whether he will come back or go to the NFL. But now he's a national champion. He has something to show to his father. Anyway, so that's Sony style, and that's the linebackers. And there are some young ones, and they still have more stories to tell. So I'll just kind of skip them. So that's the linebackers, and I want to talk about the secondary. The secondary is also, there's so many stories to tell. I want to start with Jordan Hancock. Okay, Jordan Hancock might be one of the most underrated player on the team. He is the nickelback, but he plays more than that. He literally, he can do everything. He can do safety stuff. He can do cornerback stuff to cover, and he can support the run, and he does a lot of things. He's just a very, very versatile and valuable player. So that's Jordan. And the normal ones, I want to talk about Davison Igbinosun. Okay, Davison Igbinosun, he is also a transfer 2 years ago, and he's just so tough. I think he stutters a little bit, but still, you just listen to him talk, and it's just and he plays really hard. He's a little bit handsy. He likes to grab. He's just tough, and in run support he's great too. He's it's kind of interesting the smart opponents would pick on him. The first time play at Oregon picked on him and Denzel Burke. For him, mostly it's about penalties. He was penalized almost 20 times. The whole season. It's the most penalized cornerback in the country. It's just I don't know. There's so many talk about Ohio State players don't get a benefit of the penalties. It's well, they have a point. I think sometimes it's just fans talking, but check the videos, check the clips, and they have a point. But anyway, so Davison has been really, really good along the way and made many plays on tough situations. So he's one, but his story is not as dramatic as Denzel. Okay, Denzel Burke was the freshman starter from game 1 when he stepped on campus 4 years ago. So that's a great honor at Ohio State, to be that guy, and he played very good the first year. But the second year, it was like a sophomore slump, some kind of thing. His performance wasn't that good. And the third year, he was okay. And now, by then, he was being talked like a borderline first round draft, I believe. Maybe it could go high, it could go lower than that. And he decided to come back. Part of that is because brotherhood, they want to win something, So he decided to come back, and he was really, really, you could say arrogant at the beginning of the season. And he talks, he wants to be the best ever to come through Ohio State. It's not easy, Ohio State has like Denzel Ward, has Malik Hooker, has many great cornerbacks, Marshawn Lattimore, many great ones come through here. So it's not easy to be the great one, and he has a chance to do that, but he was basically exposed and picked on at Oregon. My personal assessment is that he was a little bit too arrogant and didn't really play in his role. In his role for cornerbacks is you do your job, even if they catch it, because cornerbacks, let's trust it, perfect offense beats a perfect defense. So even if you do great, the offense could still beat you, but then you need to put them down when they catch the ball. You can't let them go past you. Catching the ball may not be your fault. Partially it is, because of the covering, but the catch after the run after catch would be your fault. So I think he got exposed a little bit in that game. Well, yeah, and then a lot of people talk a lot of shit about him, really. And then he stayed humble. I think the team also helped him a little bit by putting Jermaine Matthews on a little bit more. Jermaine is another great player. He's basically a starter now, but he's not there yet. A little bit not there yet. You can see that in the national championship game, one of that was Jermaine's missed tackle. The touchdown, the second touchdown was Jermaine's missed tackle. So that's Jermaine, and this is Denzel. I'm not sure what Denzel's future would be for the NFL draft. I'm not sure this year helped him or not in terms of the draft, but he got a ring. He got a championship, so that's good for him. And for the draft, I think it will depend on his performance at the combine and other stuff. He can still go high. He could still go high because his general tools are still there. He's still a great player. So, but we'll see about that. So that's Denzel Burke, and then I want to talk about the safeties. The first one is Lathan Rantham. Yeah, Lathan Rantham. Okay, that's another. It's he. If not for the other guy, number 2, Caleb Downs, he will be talked a whole bunch more. He's a very, very important player on this team. He's just so great. He's a safety and he plays really well. He does almost everything well on this team, and it's too bad that he's the second best safety on this team. And otherwise, he would be considered. He might be talked about more in general, but his value to the team cannot be underestimated. He's really, you notice him a lot. It's almost like he and Caleb has a little bit of a split responsibility. He's a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage, and he did more maybe run support than and he did great. He's hard hitting. I just love watching him play, and that's Latham. And I think this is the final player I want to talk about is Caleb Downs, second-year player, transferred from Alabama. I watched football for many years. I'm a football junkie, American football junkie, and I watch them. I follow the recruits and follow everything. I watch how coaches talk and players talk, and so I'm just a football junkie, And this guy, there's really no doubt in my mind. I know don't trust me, don't quote me on that, right? Because there's so many great safeties go through Ohio State, Michael Dawes and, Malik Hooker and, Dante Whitner, I think this is the best of them. This is the best of them. Mostly because I like how smart he is. The Jim knows, the defensive coordinator, loves telling the story of how he was interviewed by Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs came to Alabama to play for Nick Saban. Of course, Nick Saban, the greatest college coach of all time, and he's a defensive guy, and I'm sure Caleb can relate to him a lot and ask a whole bunch of questions. And there's so many good stories about Caleb. Like when he was young, he was 8 years old. He already became a leader. He started to see the whole field, and it's film studies. It's just cerebral, very cerebral, and I love the way he plays safety. The way he plays safety is, as a safety, I know this is very, whatever is my understanding. I think the greatest safety is that you don't need to do shit. You let other people do shit. If everybody else does their job, you probably don't even need to move. You can just drink your coffee and look at it, like how he watches Jack Sawyer, running down the sideline, But when people screw up, well, people always do, because that's a game. Sometimes they screw up, sometimes the other team just play great, make a play, you go down, you do that. But when you go up, you do that. You are the last barrier, so you have to perform. You cannot make mistake. You make mistake, it's a touchdown. That's actually happened in the national championship game. The second touchdown by Notre Dame was after Caleb Downs missed the tackle. But in his defense, it's not fully his fault. It's Jermaine Matthews didn't really do his job. He should wrap the guy up, at least put the guy in a tougher situation, so Caleb can come up and help clean up. But he didn't. He kind of let it loose a little bit, and then Caleb was in a bad position, and then the receiver, Great House from Notre Dame, played a great game, made a great move, and then scored the touchdown. So that's the only time I saw him miss a tackle, really the only time for the whole season. He's really a great player, and Jim Knowles said he was interviewed by him for 3 hours, asking him a whole bunch of questions, all kinds of questions. And until he said, okay, I'll come to Ohio State, since you do know a lot. You probably know more than I do, and so I come. And so that's Caleb Downs, and that's the other transfer. This year, so many people give Ohio State shit about spending $20 million, transfer or something, like those idiots somewhere to talk about that. That's totally not true. You think about it, the real 1 year transfer on this team that made a huge contributions are 4 of them. Only 1 on defense, that's Caleb Downs, and 3 on offense, that's the quarterback, the center, and the running back. So I don't know. It's just and everybody spends money. Texas spends more than Ohio State did. Oregon spent more. Other places, I'm not sure, but at least these 2 places spend more than Ohio State did. And anyway, so that's about the players. And I love Ryan Day's attitude and his narrative after the game. He basically says this is about the players. It's about the players. No, it's more than about the players. It's also about the coaches. I'll try to sum it up because it's already an hour. So anyway, so for the coaches, if you follow Ryan Day's career like I do, he took so many shit over the years, because 5 years into his job, he hasn't won the national championship yet. That's also why I told people he might be the unluckiest bastard of all the coaches. If you see that, Woody Hayes, Jim Tressel, Urban Meyer, Nick Saban, and they all won the national championship like in the first 3 years. It's almost like immediate success is a guarantee. You have to do that, especially like at Ohio State, especially after you did so well in the recruiting front. Back in the Tressel days, the recruiting sucks. It's low top 10. It's still respectable, but sometimes it's lower than that. So But then people are patient. People think, okay, it needs 2 or 3 years for the players to mature, to build a team, and then you can win a championship. But Tressel only won once at the beginning, and then lost twice in the get it to the final twice and lost. So that's the overall record. And for Ryan Day, after Urban Meyer, he actually elevated the recruiting. So Ohio State recruiting is top in the country almost every year. So people say you gotta win. Your players are better, so you gotta win. And he actually did. He put together a super team in 2019. But in 2019, it's just the last of the interception. It's just and also all the shenanigans in the game. I don't want to talk about it. It's just it's a shady game. But even if he won, it would be a battle in the final against LSU, against Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's LSU, that team was really unstoppable. But Ohio State has a great defense, so they have a chance. They also have a great offense, so they have a chance. They would have a better chance. But anyway, that's the past. And then after that, COVID happened, and in the COVID years, they lost. They got a revenge against Clemson, but they lost the championship game against Alabama. For one, that Alabama team is loaded. It's all-time great. It's one of the top all-time. But on the other hand, Ohio State was short on players because of the COVID. Many players cannot play. They have to ask a middle linebacker to cover Devontae Smith, the Heisman winner, the wide receiver. That's a huge mismatch. So they lost that game. What can you say? To me, it's just luck. And then the team up north happened. The sign stealing, all these things. It's of course you cannot just say that's the only reason you lost the games, but you cannot say. It's hard to tell if it doesn't happen, would they win? You think about it, for the team that has Marvin Harrison Jr. as a receiver, you still have a Chris Olave, I believe, and you have a C.J. Stroud as the quarterback, and you put over 40 points on the potentially all-time great Georgia defense, and you lost to that Michigan team. Okay, so and last year it's Kyle McCord and the things, and this year the concussion stuff. So all these things, I know I'm sounding like I'm making excuses. Well, part of that is because I know how the real world works. You can do everything right. You could be doing everything right, and they don't really go your way, the result. And what can you do? You blame the player, you blame the COVID, you blame the world, the nature, the fans. That's what Ryan Day did. Ryan Day didn't complain at all. Ryan Day always said this comes with the territory. This comes with it's a passionate fan base, and this is the job. He's the highest winningest coach by percentage among the active coaches. He's one of the three that's won national championship now. To me it doesn't really change how I see him. I know many other fans do, but to me it doesn't. He's still the same guy. He's trying to do things right, and it's just sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you're not. So this time he's lucky. Along the years, I myself, I'm a psychologist. I'm a management scholar, so I observe his leadership. I know how he made all the decisions, the people he hired, and how he delegated the play calling duties and stuff. You can't just delegate that. You have to delegate to somebody you can trust who has the ability to handle that. And Brian Hartline wasn't ready there, and Kevin Wilson was, but he left, and then he tried to hire, whatever, and then he got Chip Kelly. That's just great. I think the current coaching staff is the most complete. The defense is in good hands, in Jim Knowles and Larry Johnson and others, and the young stars like James Laurinaitis. And the offense is in great hands in Chip Kelly, Justin Fry, and all these people. Now he can be the head coach, and I also love his approach. His approach, as a coach is when things don't go well, you need to take responsibility. You need to shield the kids, because great coaches do that. I didn't put them in the right place to succeed. Sometimes it is, many times it is, but sometimes it's execution. You put them in the right place, like the game against Georgia. The play calling wasn't the problem. They put the team in the place to win. It's just that the kicker didn't make the kick. I don't want to blame the kicker, okay? Because it's a tough job. Sometimes it's all right. I forgot to mention Jaden Fielding. I just say I'm happy he made 2 kicks in the national championship game. So it's another redemption story there. But anyway, so that's Ryan Day. I think it's fitting to conclude on reviewing Ryan Day's story there. I think he did everything right. Really, he was prepared for the long season, and if you watch him, you remember in the first couple years, Ohio State's offense was they score in bunches in a hurry. But by doing that, you put your defense in a tougher situation because your time of possession is lower, and then your defense is is worn out near the end of the game. And then how can you manage that, especially for a long season? So this year they slow down the game, so control the clock. If you check, even in the final, the national championship game, Ohio State still has an advantage in time of possession. So he literally tried to do everything right. Sometimes things go his way, sometimes it didn't. But I'm so glad for the coach that he got his championship ring. Now he's in there. I earlier after the Michigan debacle, I posted an episode. I said Ryan Day is like your wife. She's pretty. She does everything right. She's a beauty both outside and inside. She's like perfect match. But after you married her, you suddenly realize that she snores or something like that, and she doesn't really meet your lofty standards. And now he get over the hump by getting the national championship. So I don't know. People ask him, what does this mean for you? What's going to happen to you in the future? He said, I have no idea. Same here. I have no idea what's going to happen to him, what he would do, and what would others do to him. I don't know. But I'm just so happy. I'm just so happy he got his championship. One thing I want to say though, one thing is that if we give him chance, we let him continue to coach for the next 20 years here at Ohio State, he could be another Nick Saban. He really could. He's that good, yeah. And anyway, so I want to end this episode on a high note. So congratulations to the whole Buckeye team and the coaches. You are the people that's really doing all the job, and for me and for other fans, we can brag about this, but it has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with other fans. It's just I'm so proud of these guys, and I'm so happy that I'm a fan and I'm associated with the team. So anyway, this is Two Legs Better. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you again in the future.